Hey, if you're watching this next clip without a VPN, your IP address can be used for spying or tracking. Keep your IP address and internet activity private, whether you're at home or on the go with NordVPN. Now stay tuned to see how you can save 75% on a 3-year plan.
It's becoming more likely that the United States will pursue some sort of military action against Iran. Now, this follows escalating tensions with Iran even over the weekend. Now, first, there has been an update on what Iran plans to do if European allies to the United States continue to listen to Trump and his threats to force them to follow through with American sanctions against Iran. If they do that, well, Iran is going to go ahead and violate the Iran nuclear deal because it really has no reason to follow through with a nuclear deal that the United States has pulled out of and has now imposed sanctions over. Now, let me give you some more details. According to the reports, Iran's Atomic Energy Organization said that within days, it expects that the country will have produced and kept in its stockpiles more low-enriched uranium, the sort used to fuel power plants, than allowed by the 2015 deal. So here is an example of them possibly violating the Iran nuclear deal. They also left open the possibility that Iran might soon begin enriching the uranium to much higher levels of purity, edging it closer to what would be necessary to produce a nuclear weapon. And finally, according to a spokesman with Iran's Atomic Energy Organization, this individual says that Iran might also increase the level of uranium enrichment to 20% for use as fuel for the Tehran research reactor, which the United States actually supplied to Iran back in 1967. Iran says the facility is used to create medical isotopes for use in cancer treatment, but the nuclear agreement limits the level of enrichment to 3.67%. Now, I want to get to some of the rhetoric coming from the Trump administration in just a second, but do you want to jump in, Jake?
Yeah, so very important part of that is if you're saying, well, they're still doing uranium enrichment at 3.67%. No, if it is a low level of uranium enrichment, it cannot be used in an atomic bomb. It is only for nuclear energy reasons that you could use it. So that's just a scientific fact. If they do crank it up to 20%, then yes, they could use it in weapons. So that is why this is such a big story. But just a point of clarification, we say that they would then be in violation of the treaty. That's true, but let's remind everybody that we are already in violation of the treaty. We ripped up the treaty. That's as much of a violation as you could possibly have. So America is saying we're not abiding by the treaty anymore. We put new sanctions on you and we have forced all of our allies to abide by those sanctions. But even though we're not holding up our end of the deal, you must hold up every single part of the end of your deal. Well, what the hell kind of deal is that? That's not a deal. So it's actually shocking that Iran has stayed in the deal this long. They're saying, and it's only because Europe, Russia, and China have stayed in the deal that Iran did not, quote unquote, violate it yet. But now they're saying, look, guys, in effect, you've all pulled out of the deal because you're going along with the US sanctions against us, and you're also cutting off our financial dealings in the rest of the world. And now America's labeled the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, that's the core of their military, a terrorist group, which means that they cannot do business anywhere in the world. So they say, well, you've left us absolutely no choice. And the fact that Europe, for example, has stayed in the deal doesn't really mean anything to us because you guys are doing the same sanctions we had before the deal.
Right. And
sorry, the reason that they are saying now that, hey, then we're going to go back to enriching uranium. And there's an extra layer of this that we'll explain in a little bit about how Trump put them in an absolutely no-win situation regarding the specifics. But they're saying, Europe, you can head this off. You just have to not listen to America's sanctions. You can do a work around the sanctions and it's technically legal. If you do that, then we'll continue to abide by the deal. But if you don't, well, then we have no choice because there is no deal. And as much as I can't stand the Iranian government or the Revolutionary Guard or the Ayatollah, on the facts, they are definitely correct.
So I also want to just note that the sanctions have hurt Iran economically, but to the point where humanitarian aid is also being impacted. And this was something that Mike Pompeo was on the record saying would not happen. He promised that people would not be hungry in Iran, the people of Iran wouldn't suffer, that humanitarian aid wouldn't be blocked, but that certainly is happening. Now, here's the part that everyone should be concerned about. While everyone in the media is focusing on nonsense, the rhetoric coming from Mike Pompeo and the Trump administration indicates that there are plans to invade Iran. So let me give you the details. According to the Jerusalem Post, since Friday of last week, the White House has been holding incessant discussions involving senior military commanders, Pentagon representatives, and advisors to Trump. The military action under consideration would be an aerial bombardment of an Iranian facility linked to its nuclear program. The decision to carry out military action against Iran was discussed in the White House before the latest report that Iran might increase the level of uranium enrichment. So before Iran even announced that they might increase uranium enrichment, the White House was already talking about what type of military action they need to take against Iran. That's an important point to make, something to keep in mind. But with that said, let's take a look at what Mike Pompeo had to say during his interview over the weekend on Face the Nation.
The United States is considering a full range of options. We've briefed the president a couple of times. We'll continue to keep him updated.
You say a full range of options. Does that include a military response?
Of course, the president will consider everything we need to do to make sure, right? But what the president said, we don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon. The previous administration put them on a pathway that virtually guaranteed that they could get there.
That is not true. That is a complete and utter lie. The Iran nuclear deal prevented Iran from enriching uranium and from developing nuclear weapons. There were actual safeguards. There were actual ways of checking in and ensuring that they were following the demands in the Iran nuclear deal. But pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal does exactly what the Trump administration alleges they don't want, which is them continuing with uranium enrichment. But here's the thing, they claim they don't want that, but in reality, the Trump administration wants that. They want to invade.
So I want to talk more about the invasion in a second, but to go back to that point that I was alluding to about what specific detail in this new Trump directive puts Iran in a no-win situation and leads to what Anna's referring to here, is that in the old deal, Iran was shipping the uranium out of the country, so they had no access to it. So that was great because they needed for some level of energy reasons, and in fact, for now they're having medical supplies issues connected to our sanctions, et cetera. But it doesn't matter because in the old deal they were shipping the uranium out of the country. Now Trump's team is saying if they ship any uranium out of the country, if any country receives the uranium that they're shipping out, they will have extra sanctions. Wait, why do we want them to keep the uranium? That doesn't make any sense at all. The only reason you would do that is if you wanted to say, haha, they're building up uranium so you could bomb them. So this is an obvious trick to get us into a war. And so now, again, Jerusalem Post in the story that Anna mentioned, saying that not only are they planning a bombing of Iran, there's another word for that, that's called war and invasion. But they say, according to a Western diplomat, the bombing will be massive, but will be limited to a specific target. Yeah, that's usually how wars work, right? You do a massive bombing of a country and then it goes, oh, okay, thank you very much. We won't respond at all. No, of course they're gonna respond. And the minute that they respond, Pompeo and Bolton are gonna walk into that idiot Donald Trump's office and go, hey, you're gonna seem weak. And they're gonna bring in Lindsey Graham with him. And Lindsey Graham's gonna say, you're gonna seem weak.
Right.
You don't want to be weak, Donald. Remember, Donnie, how your dad used to call you a weak little idiot, right? And that's what you're gonna be if you don't respond to Iran countering our measures, right?
Right.
And they are going to rope him into that war so easy. Hey, listen, if Iran did a massive bombardment of one of our nuclear energy facilities, what would we do? We would immediately start a full-scale invasion of Iran.
100%.
Everybody knows that. There's not a single right-winger who would deny that. There's not a single person in the media with a straight face could deny that. But yet the media treats it like, oh, we'll just be doing a massive bombardment of Iran and that'll be it. No, that won't be it. then we'll have a massive war in the Middle East, one much bigger than the Iraq war. Iran is 4 times the size of Iraq.
So I want to go back to Pompeo in just a second, but I want to quickly mention that unfortunately, the only real hope we have to prevent an invasion of Iran or any type of military action against Iran is Trump's base. Because Trump's base is not in favor of more military action abroad. In fact, one of the reasons why Trump won was because he had this populist message of bringing our troops home. Why are we sending them to all of these wars? So if the strategy is performed correctly, I guess, we could get into Trump's head by convincing him, hey, your base doesn't like this, you should listen to your base, as opposed to the war hawks that surround you. But I don't know if that's gonna happen, because as you're about to see, Pompeo is on a mission. He wants military action against Iran. Here's another example.
China gets over 80% of its crude oil transiting through the Strait of Hormuz. South Korea, Japan, these nations are incredibly dependent on these resources. We're prepared to do our part. We always defend freedom of navigation. We are going to work to build out a set of countries that have deep vested interest in keeping that strait open to help us do that.
Do you have the legal authorization for a strike on Iran?
We always have the authorization to defend American interest. These are attacks on fundamental international norms and now on American interests, and we always have the right to defend our country.
So they claim that, oh, well, Iran attacked a Japanese ship, and so we have a right to defend all the ships there. That is what's gonna give us a justification to start a war with Iran. Now, did Iran actually attack that ship? Every eyewitness on the boat says, no, there was no mines planted. It was incoming from the air, so it was either from a plane or just a missile. But it was not planted on the side of the ship, as the Pentagon says. So every witness says that what Pompeo is saying is an absolute lie, okay? Now, luckily there's a resistance. And so Adam Schiff, a huge part of the resistance for the Democratic Party. So he goes on television. Let's see what he has to say about the Pentagon's lies trying to get us into a war, and Pompeo and Bolton, the worst neoconservatives in the country, clearly marching us to war. Let's see what he says.
There's no question that Iran is behind the attacks. I think the evidence is very strong and compelling. In fact, I think this was a Class A screw up by Iran.
Now, look, to be fair, the context of the rest of Adam Schiff was saying we should have stuck with the treaty and that the Trump team's headed in the wrong direction. But when you agreed to their lies in the first place and say Iran did attack those ships, they don't care about your opinion. They're gonna say, hey, even the top Democrat in the intelligence community in Congress said that it was true. Iran attacked. Iran attacked. Adam Schiff said it, and he's part of the resistance. And then he says Iran attacked. It's just not true. The evidence is comically wrong. And so, but Schiff goes out there, oh yeah, it's Iran's fault. It's Iran's fault. And by the way, these are the same guys in the Democratic Party who voted for the Iraq War. And now they go, oh golly, gee, I guess, oh, are they gonna attack Iran? I'm against it, but boy, Iran really does have it coming the way that they have attacked the ships. So Adam Schiff and other part of the assistance, they're not resisting a goddamn thing. And so when you have the Democratic Party who's supposed to be resisting the worst president we've ever had, going along with his lies, and you have the neoconservatives surrounding Donald Trump, and you have a president who's incredibly stupid, are we gonna stumble our way into a war?
Yes.
Almost certainly now. Look, before I wasn't saying that. After today's news, we're in a world of trouble, guys. So you got Lindsey Graham threatening war against Venezuela today. You've got apparently a secret program in the Defense Department that's trying to start a cyber war with Russia. And now you've got massive bombardment of Iran as imminent. So is Trump going to either on purpose or accidentally start a war? Now I've got it at high certainty. And remember the last factor, those polls that he keeps claiming are fake, he knows for a fact are true.
That's right.
He fired his pollsters because they came with bad news saying you're losing by a ton to both Biden and Sanders. Sanders is even beating you worse than Biden, okay? So he's in a panic, and his poll numbers have never come close to 50%. He's a deeply unpopular president who has almost no chance of getting reelected. So, and now he's got a bunch of neoconservatives whispering in his ear, oh, you gotta go to war, you gotta go to war. War's the strong thing to do. The voters will see it as strength. No, by the way, Anna's right. I don't know, maybe Trump could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and get away with it when it comes to his base, or Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff. But if ever his base is going to feel betrayed, it's when Donald Trump, after saying the Iraq war was a disaster and we shouldn't have gone in, starts a war that is 4 times as large. Now, more about how you can save 75% off the only VPN to receive a perfect score from PC Mag. Just simply head over to nordvpn.com/TYT to keep yourself protected from prying eyes. And for a short time only, use the code TYT to get an extra month of Nord for free. Thanks for watching.